ArtMakers was made possible by the San Luis Obispo County Office of Education, Studios on the Park in Paso Robles, and the Arts Collaborative.
Hi, I'm Jessamyn Pattison, and we are here at Studios on the Park in Paso Robles. I am an artist, a musician, and a teacher, and today we get to learn about one of my favorite artists, Alexander Calder. We're going to make a mobile that is inspired by his artwork, so let's get started. Alexander Calder is an American artist best known for his mobiles, which are suspended artworks that are gently moved by air currents in space. He also created non-moving sculptures, as well as paintings, drawings, and jewelry. Alexander Calder came from a family of artists. His mother was a painter, and his father and grandfather were sculptors. At first, Alexander did not want to enter the family business of making art. His father said that Alexander was always ready to make something out of wood, string, wire, and other things that he found in his pocket. Since he liked to figure out how to make things, Alexander decided to go to college and study engineering. Engineers use science and math to build structures such as bridges, skyscrapers, automobiles, and airplanes. For a while, Alexander was an engineer, but he soon realized that he had a passion for art, and he went back to school. His first published artwork was a book about drawing animals. His style showed a simplicity of line and spirit. See how he captures the emotions and attitudes of animals in just a few quick lines? As a young boy, Calder often made his own toys, and he loved the circus. While living in Paris, France, Calder began to fabricate small, animated circus animals out of wire, wood, cork, and other found materials. Remember how young Alexander had string, wood, and wire in his pockets all the time? You can see how those childhood memories are influencing his art. At first, Calder brought his wire figures to life in front of a few friends, and they loved it. He added music to the performance and dramatically described what the animals, clowns, and acrobats would do next. In French, it was called Cirque Calder, or Calder's Circus, and it became a big hit. It was performed to crowds in Paris and New York. This is an archival film showing Calder when he was older, operating some of his circus performers.
Desperado, art thou ready?
Oh, sir, always ready.
Then go!
Eventually, Calder's circus consisted of an elaborate troupe of over 70 miniature figures and animals. Many of them had complex mechanisms, allowing them to move and perform lots of tricks. There were nearly 100 accessories such as nets, flags, carpets, and lamps, and over 30 musical instruments and noisemakers. Calder choreographed and narrated his circus theater, and sometimes the performance would last 2 hours. Calder's circus is on display at the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York. You can see how big the circus presentation is in relationship to the size of the museum visitors. Calder's work on his circus got him to thinking about movement in art, which would motivate him for his next chapter of creative expression. When we think about sculpture, we often think of a solid object. This is a sculpture from the time of the Romans called the Green Caesar. It is a static sculpture, which means it does not move. Alexander Calder was a pioneer in kinetic art. This is an art that depends on movement for its effects. The word kinetic comes from a Greek verb meaning to move. Kinetic energy is the energy of anything in motion, like a football being kicked or driving in an automobile. Did you notice the word mobile inside the word automobile? Mobile means that something can easily move. Around 1930, Calder began creating mobiles, which are suspended works of art that have motion. His artworks included motion in a way that no one else had before him. The mobiles are activated by the air current in a space. With this movement, his sculptures come alive. They remind us of movement in nature, such as leaves dropping from a tree, fluttering in the breeze. Calder's mobiles take on different forms as they move, so as the viewer watches it, it does not look the same. We can stand in one place, and the mobile moves for us, shifting into a new view. This is an art form that creates interaction between the mobile and the viewer that is not possible with a static sculpture. They may look easy to construct, but these mobiles actually require mathematical calculations to create balance. What does that mean? Here's a baby toy that shows what happens when one side has more weight than the other. This is called being out of balance. If Calder's mobiles had more weight on one side, they would have the same problem. When both sides have the same weight, the toy is balanced. Calder put his engineering knowledge to work to create balance. He engineered the mobiles so that gentle changes in the air current cause them to move, but still stay beautifully balanced. When he was younger, Calder worked on a ship, and he spent many nights gazing at the sky. He was captivated by the stars and planets suspended in the universe. You can see that influence in his mobiles. They move slowly and gracefully. Besides being influenced by the universe, his designs are also inspired by his interest in dance and performance. The mobiles have a kind of choreography of movement and the mathematical precision to keep the parts from touching each other. The shadows also play a part in the presentation of the sculpture. The shadows slowly dance on the wall, presenting another view of the artwork. Alexander Calder was interested in reflecting on the fast pace of modern life. His mobile structures represent a call to slow down and take time to observe the world around us. While Alexander Calder is known for his mobiles, he also created static sculptures called stabiles. Some of these sculptures are really big. In France, the red spider is 50 feet tall. And in Montreal, Canada, the man reaches 65 feet. Calder also enjoyed sculpting in wire. He called it drawing in space. One of his most well-known wire portraits is called Kiki. Although Alexander Calder was an artist who did not want to be known for just one type of artistic expression, he is credited today as a pioneer of kinetic art. Alexander Calder is an American artist who transformed sculpture into a lighter, more playful art form. Hey guys, thanks for joining me. I sure love how Alexander Calder used movement in his artwork. We are going to also be making a mobile inspired by Alexander Calder's work. This one's more of a stabile, but I also created one that has some moving parts, so you'll have different options as we move forward in our project. So some of the things you'll need today for your art project are a string. And the string and the wire can be about the length of your arm. If your parent is helping you, you probably want to use their arm so it can be a little bit longer. And the same with wire, about the same length. And the wire that I got, found some in the floral section of a arts and crafts store. And then I also found some in the sculpting section, which was armature, and the armature is like the skeleton or the bones of a sculpture. I also have some colored pencils for a drawing we'll make of our sculpture, and some black marker. If you're using Sharpie, just know that it's permanent, be careful. And we're gonna need just some Elmer's glue, a mixing bowl, a small mixing bowl, and probably any tape will work, but duct tape is the best, it's the strongest. For the base of our sculpture, we can use, I found these little pots. They're just pots for plants. I'm gonna use a larger one for my sculpture. And I also just found some paper cups. Make sure you're careful when you poke the hole in the top, but these work also. First, I just wanted to talk about the difference between a line and a shape, because we are using lines to create shapes. So, is this a line or a shape? It is a line. The sides are not touching. This is also a line, a wavy line. You can find them in different places around the house or in nature. And this is also open. Some lines have no end, that's in math, but in art, a lot of times they do. Dotted line, we won't be using this one today because we cannot make a dotted line sculpture. I got my curly Q line, and that one does look a little bit more like the lines we'll be using for our sculpture. And then straight line, diagonal line. You could make these lines in different parts of your body. This could be a straight up and down line with your body. And this one, is this a line or a shape? It is a shape because it is closed. The two sides of the lines, boop, come together and close. If you can put something inside of it and it can't get out, then that means it is a shape. All right, another shape that we're used to, square, triangle, three lines that make a shape. Now we're going to take out our string, and you can make a straight line with your string. You can make a diagonal line. You can make a horizontal line. You can make a curved line. You can make a frowny face curved line. And you can make a creative line. And we're going to make a creative line off the side of our table if you're working on a table. This is just to remind us that it will be a shape. We're going to make a line into a shape with three smaller shapes. Okay, so we're going to put both of the edges of our string or our line off the side of our table, and then just pick your string up and make three shapes within your string. So I have a medium shape, big shape, small shape. Okay, that one's all right. I'm going to try a different one. They're probably all going to be kind of similar, but no two lines or shapes of these sculptures will probably be alike. You can have them come inside or outside, and we can also decide that once we move to the wire. So from there, I'm using my string. I'm going to trace it with my finger. Check out what it looks like. I'm going to close my eyes and think if I can trace it, remember it in my artist memory. Want something like this. All right, now I'm going to take my paper and trace it onto my paper with a pencil. So put my paper to the side of my string so I can look at my string while I'm drawing now. I'm not tracing anymore. I could also go try one more time first. And I want your shape should take up the whole space. And also you get to decide, is your shape long and tall or is it short and fat? So mine I'm going to make long and tall. So this is vertical. We're using our paper vertically. Okay, here comes my shape. I'm drawing it also off the edges of my paper, just like the edge of my table. I'm moving back and forth between my eyeballs and my pencil. And it's pretty close. I think this is a little bit smaller than my string, but I can always erase it and change it, but I'm going to say that's good enough. Okay, so now we get to make the armature for our sculpture. This is my base. So the base is like the feet of the sculpture where it stands. And some of Alexander Calder's sculptures don't have a base that is on the ground. They have a base that is hanging from the ceiling. So it's like it's standing upside down. But this one does. It has some feet and a base. So I'm going to put my two ends of my wire, which I mentioned it should be about as long as my arm, a little bit longer, into the hole of my pot. Or if you're using a cup that you can find at home, you can put it in that one. This one's a little bit sturdier. It stands better. So I'm going to put them in there. And then I need to make them stay. So I'm going to make an X with them. And just make one X. Crisscross it. And this is where it's awesome to be a kid because your hands are small. And pull it through, make sure it doesn't come out. And then I have some duct tape, a small piece of duct tape that I am going to cut. Well, you can cut it into a circle, but I realized actually I don't need to right now. I cut my other one into a circle so it looked prettier on the inside, but most people won't be looking underneath your sculpture. So I put it in there and it should stay in one spot. So I'm going to look at my drawing here and match it to my sculpture. So I'm working from the left to the right. So I'm going to start with a small shape over here, and then the best thing about these blueprints is they don't have to be exact. We can change them if we want to. So I am going to make one twist. I'm going to take my hands like a little beak and twist once. And then I can make the shape a different size if I want. I have another shape coming up and over that's a little bit longer, like an oval shaped. And again, I can hold it. Something else that's nice is you can have someone, a friend, hold the base if you need to. But I just come here and make another twist. It's kind of funny shape, so I'm going to make it a little bit longer. And here comes my third one. I noticed the difference on this one is that it goes inside instead of outside of my larger shape. Because I actually have 4 shapes here eventually, 1 big one and 3 small ones. So here comes my third one, one twist, and let's see, this way, is that the other way? Is it backwards? Yep, there we go. Is it okay if it's not perfect? Yes. That's why I like art. Sometimes my mistakes turn into things that I like better than what I thought it should look like. Okay, so now we are to the glue portion of the project, and you'll just need a small mixing bowl and some Elmer's glue or any kind of white glue works. and it's going to be half and half. So however much water you put that much glue. And I actually kind of mixed it with a fork like some scrambled eggs, and that seems to be a good consistency. So my favorite part of this project, I was just telling a friend, is ripping fabric. So you can either use fabric for your strips that you are going to be wrapping around the small shapes. You can use some colorful magazine strips. You can make the edges either straight or jagged like that one. And I also tried it with tissue paper and ended up looking nice, but it did bleed into, that's an art term, it wasn't really bleeding. It bled into the glue. So if I wanted to put a different color of tissue paper in there, it made it look kind of funny. So then I thought, I have this cool just white linen fabric, maybe I could put food color into the glue. So that's an option too, if you wanted to do that. So in order to get your strips, you probably want about 1 inch, which is about as long as the top part of your thumb, the little bendy part, 1 inch. And I'm gonna cut away from myself, and then I can just rip my fabric. Isn't that fun? And I'm gonna cut it. Probably only needs to be, could probably be even smaller than that, but I don't know, how big is that? How big is my head about? And then I am going to dip it into my mixing bowl. When I'm dipping, I'm going to take my 2 peace fingers or bunny ears, and I'm going to use them as a squeegee once I dip them in. So you're going to do that 1, 2, 3 times once you dip it. So go ahead and dip it. You're going to get messy. Some kids really like that, some don't. Some adults really like that, some don't. I like getting messy. It's a good excuse. So if you want to get messy when you're an adult, be an art teacher. And I'm going to squeegee, get the extra liquid off of my fabric 3 times there. And then I get to wrap it around one of my shapes. This is a bigger piece of fabric, so I am going to choose my bigger shape. This part's a little bit tricky, so I always like to tell my students, don't get mad at yourself if you don't know how to do this because you've never done it before. That's why we're learning, to learn how to do new things. So I just wrapped it around. I'm going to cover all of the shape. And it kind of looks chunky and not very angular, not as round as my shape. So then I can kind of tuck the edges in with my fingers. Eventually, once it dries, I can also cut them with my scissors off. But there's one, it's pretty good. Take a look at the other side. Okay, and here we go, second one. I think I'm going to make this one a little smaller because I don't need so much fabric. So I'm going to practice how many times I need to wrap this around before. That's probably good. Cut a little bit smaller. Dip, dip. Squeegee, squeegee. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you don't touch your face. And wrap that one around. I want to make sure that I'm covering the whole shape. Kind of looks like a mummy with this white linen. Okay, that's my second one. I'm moving a lot quicker than you have to, or than you probably will. I've been practicing making art for at least 25 years. And so take your time, have fun. This one's going to be a little bit trickier because it's in the middle, and I realized I didn't practice putting it around. So I'm going to start over, and I'm going to make a smaller shape. That's also what's nice about art, is you can start over. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. See how many times I need to wrap it. Seems like it's like 4 times that I get to wrap it. Okay, cut that there. And dip it in there. You guys having fun yet? I am. Thanks for joining us. All right, and I'm gonna wrap it. I'm gonna take this over here. And it seems like it's best if I don't start it right at the edge, but kind of come around a little bit so I have something to catch, to stick it on there, because the fabric needs to stick to itself. And then I shape it as best I can. So that's the stabile. It's not moving. It's a stable, it stays in place, static sculpture. And then if you wanted to make a mobile, you would take a smaller piece of wire. I would use the same kind of wire because I have several kinds, or a lighter wire. And then you just have to figure out, this is the math part. So in order to be balanced, I have to make sure it's in the middle where I attach it. So I'm going to bend it in half. And then I'm going to put it, see where I want it to go. I actually could make it so that it doesn't have to be attached there and I can move it around, but I'm going to make one little loop around. This part is a little bit tricky. All right. And that's kind of fun. And then I make my shapes. Maybe I want to make like a triangle on this one. I noticed in Alexander Calder's artwork, most of his shapes are organic and inorganic shapes, but most of them are organic. They're kind of funny shaped. They're things that you could find in nature rather than man-made shapes. So I'm going to make an organic shape there, and then I'm going to have to make this one. Let's see how we can balance it out. And luckily we're going to cover it with some fabric because it doesn't look very pretty right now. Okay, let's see. Not only am I an artist, I'm a mathematician, guys. All right, well, I'm going to just leave it up to your imagination to fill in those shapes with your fabric. And then the last part of my project that I like to do is just draw my sculpture. So you can draw it on another piece of paper with pencil and then go over it with some Sharpie. And I like to color it in with colored pencils, the different shapes. And maybe you chose different colors for your shapes that you used, or you can make up colors that you like. Thanks for joining us today on ArtMakers. I hope you go out and make some art soon because I love making art and I hope you do also.